Hi, I'm Rachel Gray. Welcome to my cooking channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make some breadsticks. These are the breadsticks that I grew up with. My mom made them. They're really comforting to me, and the thing that I really love about them is they're really fast. They're a yeast dough, but you don't have to wait for it to rise. So, you know, when you're making dinner and you think, ooh, breadsticks would be good with this, but I don't have 3 hours for it to rise. You don't need 3 hours for this to rise. All it takes is the time to put the dough together, roll it out, and then throw it in the oven. You'll want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is some nice warm water. Yeast usually thrives in water that's about 105, 110 degrees. And if you don't have a thermometer or you don't want to take the time to do that, the best way is if you would take a bath in it, then it's perfect. I'm going to need a cup and a half of warm water, and then I'm going to add a tablespoon of yeast, or a package of yeast, which is actually like 2.5, but anyway, I just kind of round it off. So I'm going to use just shy of a tablespoon. I use the SAF yeast and I store it in my freezer. That way it keeps forever. And then I'm going to use a weird ingredient, malted milk powder. I bet you didn't even know this existed. You find it in the aisle that has, like, you know, Nestle Quick. It's going to be right next to that. And I'm going to use a tablespoon of that. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the same measuring cup that has my yeast. And yeast loves sugar. It feeds on sugar, just like me. A tablespoon of honey to that. And I go ahead and put it in the water as well. And I save this for last. That way it kind of gunks up that spoon. And then I can just use the spoon to stir everything together. I'm going to let this water, yeast, honey mixture sit and bubble for about 5 minutes. And then I can tell if the yeast is good. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes. My yeast is nice and bubbly so that I know that it's active. And I'm just going to go ahead and put together my breadsticks in a food processor. It just does all the work for me. So what I want to do first, before I put the liquid in, is I want to put 2 cups of flour in the bottom. I do this because once I put the liquid in, it's just going to run right out through the bottom if I don't. So I put 2 cups of flour in at the beginning, and then I'm just going to stir this up again so I can make sure to get all the honey out of the bottom. It has a tendency to sink to the bottom, and it's okay if you stir it, it's fine. And it's at this point I'm going to add some salt. Salt has a tendency to kill yeast, so I don't put it in until the end when I'm going to mix it all together, and just 1 teaspoon of salt. Then I'm just going to stir it together. And it's kind of a runny liquid right now, and I'm just going to add some more flour until I get it the consistency that I want. So that's 1 more cup, that's 3 cups. It's kind of sticking together. I'm just going to add maybe 1/4 cup more. And as I process it, it's just going to form a ball. It's going to all kind of stick together. I just want to test it and see. It's a little sticky. So I'm just going to add a little teeny bit more flour. So I know my dough is done when it's that ball, but it's really smooth and it's not too sticky when you touch it. My counter is clean and dry, and I'm going to roll my dough out on it. I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour, and I'm just going to take my dough out of my food processor. I'm not going to worry too much about kneading it, but I am pat it down with my fingers to make it rectangular. Do a little shaping before I start to roll. I'm going to take my rolling pin and just roll it out. And I'm going to pull the edges as I roll so that I have sort of corners instead of rounded ends. I've rolled my dough out into a nice rectangle. It's probably 8 inches wide and 15 or so inches long. The next thing I need to do before I cut the dough is melt some butter. I'm going to dip each one of my breadsticks into butter. And so what I do is I just take a pie plate and a stick of butter. I just take the entire stick that's wrapped, and I put this in the microwave for 1 minute. And when I put the butter in the microwave, I put it seam side down. So what happens is it melts out the bottom, and then I can just pick up the paper and throw it away. And then I just have all the butter in the bottom, and it keeps it from splattering all over the microwave. So now that my butter's ready and my dough is ready and I've got baking sheet, then I'm ready to assemble my breadsticks. I'm gonna take my pizza cutter and I'm gonna cut the dough. And I've rolled this dough almost a ½ inch thick. And then I'm going to cut the breadsticks about 1 inch apart. Now I'm going to take each section of breadstick and just dip it into the butter and put it on my pan. And they will stretch out a little bit. That's totally fine. And sometimes I have to go back where I've been holding it and get the ends with a little bit of butter. They are going to puff up a little in the oven, so you do want a little space between them. And now for the finishing touch. When I had breadsticks growing up, my mom used to use this Salad Supreme from McCormick. And I still like this on my breadsticks. It might seem a little weird to you, but it's really delicious. So what I do while the butter is still wet, I just sprinkle a little bit of this on the top of them. I do have another suggestion if Salad Supreme seems a little too wacky for you. It's garlic salt, a little bit of dill, and Parmesan cheese. So I just kind of sprinkle it a little bit with the garlic salt first, then just a little bit of this dill weed, not the seed, the weed, and then Parmesan cheese. I just grate some down on top of it, and don't be shy. I use the microplane that I referred to in another video to grate the Parmesan cheese. It does a really great job. So now that we have our breadsticks topped, they look like this before we put them in the oven. Also at this point, we could cover them with a clean towel and let them rise for 15 minutes if we wanted to. But you don't need to let them rise. You can bake them right now. And if you have a convection oven, this is where it comes in really handy because you can bake both trays at the same time. And we're gonna bake them in a 400-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes until they're golden brown. So I'll put them in the oven and we'll see you back then. So it's been 12 minutes. I've taken my breadsticks out of the oven. Even though I did leave some space in between them, they've risen and puffed and they're kind of together. They're golden brown, they're crunchy on the outside, they're soft and tender on the inside. You're really, really gonna like these breadsticks. And I'd love to know which one you like the best. Just type it in the comments below. You can find this recipe and over 200 other recipes on my blog, cookingwithrachel101.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe.